Welcome back to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that reminds you that joy is a business strategy. I'm your host, Diane, strategist, coach and mentor, community founder of the Joy Work Club and the Joy Work Members Club, and this podcast, where we believe in big, bold goals, tough love accountability, and putting the customer at the heart of everything that we do. Each week, I sit down with brilliant business owners, big-hearted creatives, and bold humans doing meaningful work to show and tell the moments that shape them, the tools, the ideas, the people, and the stories that changed everything for them and their business. If you're building a business that actually feels good to run, one that prioritises people, purpose, and a bit of sparkle, then you are absolutely in the right place. And today's guest is such a beautiful example of what it means to blend purpose, creativity, and courage. I'm talking to Laura, a photographer whose work is deeply rooted in storytelling, emotion, and empowerment. Laura made the leap from teaching to full-time photography, and her journey hasn't been without its hurdles. From navigating health challenges to rebuilding confidence and reimagining what success can and does look like. In this episode, we talk about the power of imagery and shaping how we show up in our business, the emotional layers behind being photographed, and why slowing down and honouring the ordinary moments might just be a powerful thing we can all do. Laura's story is one of resilience, intention, and quiet bravery. And I know it's going to land in exactly the right hearts today. But as always, it's so much better to hear it from the guest himself. So let's go. Hi, Laura, and welcome to the Joy Work Show. I'm so delighted to have you here today. And the exciting thing for me today, and I love it when this happens in a podcast recording, is I know you were in a similar circle, but I don't know that much about you. So I get to find out about you at the exact same time as the audience does. So I will stop talking now and I'll hand over to you and ask you who you are, what you do, and how you got here.
Okay, so thank you for having me, firstly.
You're so welcome.
It's a real privilege because I've listened to your podcast a lot and I love it.
Thank you.
I am Laura and I own Any Something Photography and Styling. And I am really passionate that all brands, no matter what size they are, should have amazing imagery to show off what they do and what they're passionate about. So I work with creatives, solo owner businesses, and I do lifestyle product photography in my studio. And I go out on location, I do branding photography, and I basically help people to feel confident in their brand and help them to show up wherever they need to show up. I was a primary school teacher for 18 years.
Wow. Okay.
And I got quite ill with COVID. I'm severely asthmatic and I had a history of sort of poor health really with teaching, and every year I would get a chest infection. And then I got COVID and it really knocked me for 6, as you can imagine. And I kind of was sat at home on the sofa, not being able to do a great deal with pleurisy. And I thought, I don't want to keep doing this forever. I keep getting ill. It's affecting my life. It's affecting my children. It's affecting my family. I'd always done sort of photography. I'd always been passionate about small business. And I'd worked with some quite big brands like Sainsbury's and Hobbycraft to do sort of lifestyle photography for them. And that sort of was growing, but it wasn't what I loved doing. What I really loved doing was finding those small, thoughtful, passionate brands. And what really annoyed me was that quite often their photography wasn't great. And therefore they weren't reaching the people that they could reach, and they weren't reaching their full potential. So I decided to launch the business and I haven't looked back really.
My goodness.
It's just been a real sort of, I mean, it's a cliche to say roller coaster, but it has been a roller coaster, but it's also been a real privilege to work with the people that I work with and to build a really loyal and lovely client base. So yeah.
That's gorgeous. I'm so sorry to hear that you were so ill with COVID.
It was kind of like a repetitive thing. I would always get a chest infection every year. It would normally knock me out for at least 3 weeks. But with COVID, I think I was off for 4 months, and that was
Goodness.
the point at which I was like, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? And
So that was literally, you didn't go back teaching after that?
I went back for like 6 weeks. So I went back I think it was the June until the end of July. I was part-time anyway, so I kind of was building the photography more and more alongside it. I sat on the sofa while I was ill, building my website, doing the research, doing all those things that you have to do before you put your foot in. But yeah, that was that really. And then launched in the June when I went back to work, I launched the business, and then from September I was full time in the business. Yeah, it was kind
Amazing.
of just do it. And I'm very much of the opinion that like there was no negotiables. There was no like, this can't work. It had to work. I pay all my own bills. I pay my mortgage. I've got 2 young children, and I was kind of like, there's no margin for error. I can't have a plan B. This has got to work. And yeah, that's been my sort of attitude from the get-go, really.
I think it's a really important attitude to have. And it's one that I often say, when clients say to me, if this doesn't work, I'll do this. And I'm like, no, 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 no. For me, this has to work. I left a really successful career after 2 maternity leaves, pretty much back to back. But it was a choice. It was a choice of, this is how I want my life to look. This is the parent I want to be. These are the holidays I want to go on. These are the things that I want to do. And I won't be able to do that if I stay in the world that I was in, from a flexibility and and I'm not really into kind of freedom business terminologies, but I also get that it's a freedom of choice. I am creating a freedom of choice. And that was really important to me. But I totally get the plan B thing. You have to have that. This has to work. There is no plan B. Because if there's a if there was a plan B, then you would pick it.
You're yourself an excuse, a get out plan, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I did sign up to do supply just in case, because I had a mortgage to pay and
Yep.
bills and all the rest, like everybody else. And in my first year of business, I was on like a variable interest mortgage, and it went up. It like doubled in my first year of business. And I was really lucky that alongside that, the business was growing as well. So I could kind of manage that. The first couple of months were really busy, and I thought, I haven't needed to do supply. And then it did dip, it got quiet like it does. And I could have done some supply, but by that stage I was like, no, that's like a backward step. I can't go and do that. And I haven't ever stepped foot back in the classroom, apart from when I went back to my old school and did the photos for their website. So
Amazing. Perfect.
it's like full circle, yeah. And
Amazing.
that's lovely, but I really enjoyed being able to kind of go home at the end of it and know that wasn't my life anymore. So yeah.
So what was it about photography that was it a hobby that started it? Was it something you'd always done and hoped it would be a business? What?
Kind of. I probably first picked up a camera seriously when my children were young, like lots of mums do. They wanted to capture those moments, but I found it incredibly frustrating. My children did not cooperate with having their photos taken. And I think it was just through Instagram. So I've always had my personal account, Tea and Biscuits, and that I started when my little boy was very young, and it grew quite quickly because I joined at a time when it was much easier to grow on Instagram. And I have quite a large, engaged, lovely community following on there. It's just a personal account. I'm not an influencer. I don't do adverts, don't do all that sort of thing. But I just love sharing photos of simple moments. That's what I'm all about, is about simple moments in life and those little things that we all should stop and enjoy. And I historically was not very good at stopping and enjoying those moments. So photography for me was a way of kind of slowing down. And then it was about that passion about small businesses. And then I would start getting a few small businesses saying to me, look, if I send you these products, can you just take a few nice photos around your home and share them? And hopefully, we can reach some more people. And I absolutely loved doing that. And I loved the fact that if I shared a photo, they might get some more sales out of it. Or if I, spread the word about the amazing products. And all small business owners put so much thought into what they do, whether they're service-based or product-based. It's their love and their passion that goes into those things. And that's kind of what I wanted to show off. And so that kind of just grew and grew. I loved doing it more. And I thought, I wonder if there's a way that I can do this and help more people and, kind of make it my career. And at the same time, teaching was changing. Aside from the ill health, I'd been in it 18 years. It wasn't what it was when I started. A lot of the creativity, I would never have described myself as a creative person until about 5 years ago. And as I was leaving teaching, I realised that it was the creativity and the ability to kind of teach through that creativity that I was really missing, because the curriculum was changing so much. And so I was thinking, I would like the more flexible role. I was taking my children to my mum's at 7 o'clock in the morning so that I could go into school and prep for my lessons. And I really wanted to be able to give my own kids their breakfast. And now people take the mick out of me, because quite often I'll make like a proper fry up for breakfast. And they're like, why? It's Thursday morning. And I'm like, because I can.
Because I can.
Do that now. And I've got a dog, which I never could have done while I was teaching. It was about that flexibility, and that, as much as I take it incredibly seriously, I work full time on the business. It does, teaching's a great job. You get great holidays. But there was if my children had an assembly, I knew I had to go and ask to be able to go and watch that. And whilst my boss was incredible and would nearly always say yes, you can't keep doing that. And there were things that, I wanted to be able to do and I couldn't because it was in term time, all sorts of things. So it was kind of the two things. Teaching was sort of doing this while the photography was doing this, and therefore it just seemed like a natural next step, really, to kind of just go for it.
I notice I have had lots of, and not knowingly so in all cases on this podcast, ex-teachers or ex-public sector, whether it's been ex-forces or ex-NHS.
Yeah.
And the thing that always comes up about teachers, and I think it's been so surprising, because I think when you were younger about jobs that would work with family, you automatically think teacher, because you think, well, they work the same hours as a school and they do it. Where it's then you grow up into an adult, you get to know some teachers and you're like, that's not the way it works. It's the most inflexible job that you can get.
It's the only job that I know where you have to work to be able to do your job. So I had to plan of an evening or of a weekend. Or when I went part-time, I was planning on my days off. That's how I was still full-time doing the teaching job, but I was having days off to enable me to plan the lessons in order to then go in to do the job. And people don't see that. They think you go in at 8:30 in the morning and you leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you get 13 weeks holiday. And yes, those things can be true, but not if you want to do the job really well.
No, that's it. And the thing is, you get into teaching, it is a vocation from that point of view. You don't get into teaching for the money.
No.
Oh, that's a whole nother argument, but it's not. You don't hear people saying, oh yeah, I want to be, a millionaire when I'm older, so I'm going to be a teacher. But that's not what, I did my role because I loved it, but I was compensated well for what I did. And the better I performed, the better I was paid. So that's why I continue to do it. I did 80-hour weeks, but if I needed to go to an appointment, or if I needed to come in a bit later or leave a bit earlier, I could do that. I could have a little bit of flexibility within reason. Obviously, I still had responsibilities and commitments, but I wasn't as questioned as teachers seem to be. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I am flabbergasted every time that I find out. And there's more and more. And it doesn't surprise me in the online space that, one, there's women, because we have to find ways to make it work and work around the children if we still want to be the caregiver at home, which I did. And two, that there's a lot of public sector workers, teachers, and because they need that flexibility, they want that flexibility. And there's in the Rebecca's episode from last week, there was, we talked about transferable skills, and lots of teachers don't think that they have them, but here's you proving.
That was me, and I still struggle to see those. I still struggle to see them, but that was definitely me, and that's what kept me in teaching for a long time. Was I loved working with the children, and I loved helping the children and seeing that progression from when you get them in September to July, but also the fact that I went straight from school to university to do a teaching degree and straight into a teaching job. I never left the education system, so I was sort of institutionalised, and I didn't know what else I could do. And slowly but surely, with being ill and various other things that happened in my life, I thought there has to be something else. There has to be. And
so what do you think it was in you? This is the bit that really interests me. What do you think it was? Because as you say, as a teacher, you're so institutionalized. you didn't think you had transferable skills? Was it just, did you almost get to breaking point for it to get to that point? Or was it then a realization of, hang on a minute,
There was an
I
element
do
of
have...
that, but weirdly, controversial answer here. I think I got divorced about 6 years ago. It was all very amicable. I'm really lucky in my situation. However, being on my own for a little while made me see things very differently. And it made me, I think, anytime anybody gets divorced, it makes you reflect on things.
Of course, of
And
course.
it actually gave me confidence. I'd never really been on my own, and it gave me a little bit of confidence to go, do you know what? I can do hard stuff, and I can do things that, I can do this on my own. I don't have to have somebody next to me all the time. That kind of just snowballed a little bit. And then the teaching was then I got ill, and then the teaching, I wasn't enjoying it as much. And I always said to myself, the day that I walk into that classroom and I don't want to be there, that prolonged, you have
Yeah.
days where you don't want to
Yeah.
be there, but the
Of
day
course,
that
of
I
course.
walk in there and I think, this has been a long time that I've not wanted, that's not fair on the kids that I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the time to kind of step out. But yeah, I think it was the confidence of the challenges that I faced that made me think, do you know what? It always works out all right in the end. And I have this blind, naive faith now that it will just always work out all right in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the push, really, I think.
But it's building that self-belief, isn't it? Like you said, I can do hard things, and going through something as traumatic as a divorce, getting through it, looking after the children, looking after yourself, paying the bills, keeping the house, all of those things, just suddenly like, well, if I can do that hard thing, which is pretty much up there with the
A
top
big
of hard
life event,
things.
isn't it? Even though mine, as I say, I stress that I was very lucky with my situation, and it was very amicable, and didn't get dragged through the courts or anything like that. But I had those worries about, how am I going to keep my house? How am I going to, am I going to lose the kids? Are they going to want to go with their dad, and all of that sort of thing? And yeah, I think it was just, as I say, like a snowball. I thought, well, I can do that. I don't love teaching. What do I love doing? How can I build the life that I want for my children and for me? And yeah, and then it was kind of, right, I'm doing it, and it has to work. So yeah.
And it has, and it will continue to do so. Okay, so let's talk about photography. We have spoke about brand on this podcast before, and the importance of branding and what that is. But what do you think the strength of the photography brings to that?
I think it's confidence. I think it's confidence for the people that, yes, if you have somebody that's taking your photos for you in a really professional way, and they look, they're going to stop people scrolling, they're going to show people how your products fit into your life, they're going to be aspirational, or how your service is going to help them and solve their problems. That's all great. And I think in order to give you sort of a professional look, then they're really important. But actually, the brands that I work with talk about confidence, and a lot of them come to me saying, I'm not sure I'm ready for professional photography. I don't think my product's good enough. Although they love it, they've put all their passion into it, there's something holding them back. Or I don't like photos of myself. That's something that I get told all of the time. And what I am about is about telling stories through imagery, and that's what a really good photo can do. It can tell your story, the story of your product, or the story of you and your brand and your service to offer, and that's what I try and do with my photography. And that's what people come back to me and say, I now feel confident enough to put myself forward for that trade show, or to apply for that wholesale stockist, or to put myself in that magazine, or to put myself forward for a public speaking event and stuff. So it's about the confidence that you get when you see your products, or you as a brand in professional photos, looking like you and representing all those visions and values that you hold and that are part of your brand. That gives you confidence to then step out of your comfort zone a little bit more. And I did a post on social media recently about, lots of people say that they'll book a shoot when they feel confident, but actually the confidence happens during the shoot and after it, because it's never, people build it up to be this big scary thing, and it's never that. And they always walk out just feeling really empowered and really like, oh my gosh, it's that hard thing again, I've just done something that I thought was going to be really hard for my business, and actually A, I really enjoyed it, B, I've left feeling confident, and C, now I've got this bank of amazing images that I can just use wherever I want, whether it's email marketing, whether my website's going to look more professional, more personal now, all of those things. And a lot of my job is about making people feel at ease and safe in what I do with them. And I think that is one of the transferable skills that I bring from teaching, because I had to make children feel safe in my classroom. I'm good at talking to people, and I love that aspect of my job, that I can take somebody who really doesn't feel like they're ready, and then they walk out and go, when can I book the next one?
Yeah.
That I love.
And it's so polarizing, like people who will take photographs and people that won't. Before I had my business, might have been a couple of pictures on Instagram, certainly when I had the babies, but I didn't really exist on social media. There's no way you could have looked and found me and be like, oh, that's Diane, because there's her face. And
Anyway.
I didn't show it on social media for lots of different reasons to do with my career. But then even when I started like putting the babies and stuff on, it was always pictures of other things. It was pictures of my home. It was pictures of my babies. It was pictures, like, notoriously, like, my mum hates me and my sisters for it because we just don't get our pictures taken. Like, we will hide. But I mean, we were to the point of being quite brattish about it, rather than just being like, we were just awful about it. Whereas when I launched my business, I was just like, it was a different mindset for me, because I was just like, it's your business. People need to see your face. You're basically, I'm a personal brand. I'm selling myself.
It's that thing that I was saying before as well, about how, you have to make your business work. So it's like a non-negotiable, really.
Totally.
If I want to reach and help as many people as I can, I've got to put myself out there. And yes, that is uncomfortable. And sometimes we don't want to do it. We don't feel like we want to show up today. But the only time that you're not going to get something out of it is if you don't do it.
Exactly. So I could get into that mindset, and I could have that mindset for my business. But there's one thing that you said that really stood out to me. And when I have had professional pictures taken, as opposed to, I'm okay, I've taken some of myself. Don't ask me whether I have to do it, because I always end up looking like some sort of something that you've dug up for some reason. And I'm sure I left the house looking okay today.
We need to train men to take better photos, 100%.
Especially Instagram husbands, they need to be. But what you said was for people to look at it and see themselves. Because so often we look at photographs and go, that's not what I looked like when I looked in the mirror this morning. But when I have had professional photos taken, I look and think, that is me.
And I say,
me.
It's not about your face. So you might hyperfixate, like I hate my teeth. So I would hyperfixate on my teeth, possibly my nose, possibly a bit of hair that's not in quite the right place, although your photographer should sort that for you. But it's not about that. It's about how warm you look through your photos, how approachable you might seem, how friendly you are. And a lot of the feedback that I get is, one person said to me a little while ago, she was like, every time you take a photo, I want to be friends with that person. That's what, I mean, for me, that I could have that tattooed on my head. I love that. But for me, I always say to people, when you get your gallery through, if they're photos of you, it's a bit different with product. Have a look at them. And initially you might go, oh, then go back to them. And if you can, go back to them with a friend or your partner or your mum or somebody that loves you, and look at them in a slightly different way, and try not to. They did a study on, it was like eye gaze study, and they got strangers and members of your family to look at photos of you, and they sort of studied where the eyes went and what they looked at. And not once in that entire study, and I'd have to find the reference of it, but they look at, the things that you were self-conscious about. And when they were asked to comment on those photos, whether they were of a stranger or a member of their family, what they commented on was their personality that came through the photos. And so that's what I always try and tell people, is that it's about you and your personality and how you're different from somebody that does a very similar thing. And because you're you do it in a different way. And so that's the story that we tell through those photos. And that the photos don't have to all be of your face.
No.
They can be of you doing what you do. We can be creative with angles and with, and because you've got a professional photographer there, their job is to use the light and make you look your best anyway. So it's going to be much easier than you trying to take a selfie, because you don't have those skills, and
You're
you don't.
trying to hold yourself and you think you need to pose in a certain way taking a selfie, whereas like I know from the professional photos I had done, I've only had it done once since having the business, and most of the other things I've taken myself at the moment. But I know that naturally if I'm to pose, say, a family picture, and we had my mother-in-law loves taking pictures of everything, so we have to pose for lots of pictures. But we love the memories. There's me not liking getting pictures taken, but you look back, and then when I see my kids looking at those pictures and they're like, "Oh, look, mummy, there's you and there's daddy and I'm like, "You love that." And all I'm doing and looking at it is hating on myself, and
Tearing it apart.
that's not right. That's not, through babe's eyes and all that. But I don't smile a lot in those. I have a kind of like fake smile in these
It's not
things.
your real.
But the pictures that I've taken, both of myself trying to be professional when you set up your camera and you try and be natural, and the ones that I got done professionally, the ones where I'm really smiling or really laughing, they get the most likes on. But if you'd said to me 2 years ago that that's what I would be posting and that's what people, I'd be like, well, no, because I don't have that nice a smile, or my face goes funny, or you see all my wrinkles, or my nose goes too wide, or whatever it may be. But they're the ones that people are saying because, like you say, it's the
Nobody else is
personality,
noticing
it's the
those
warmth.
things. Yeah.
Whereas, but when you get it done professionally, they catch you in that it's sincere because it's not you trying to
My
put
job as a
on the
photographer is
smile.
just to chat to you and to put you at ease and to make you feel really safe, so that I can capture that side of you.
Yeah.
And what I do with my clients is I just get them talking about
Yeah.
what they do, about, what they love about what they do, and then that kind of shines through.
The magic comes through. I mean, it's even when things doing these podcasts, when I'm recording, I can tell the difference between I'm recording with somebody as when I'm doing my solo episodes, and I can tell the way my mouth is when I'm smiling, how it sounds, how it comes across, whether I sound excited or bored, so you're capturing all of that in the pictures as well. Which I do think there is a little bit of magic to it, if I'm honest. I do think you're incredibly talented people who are able to capture that. So what's the difference so we've talked a lot about people not liking, what about products? How do you make that come across?
So with product photography, what you're trying to do is show people how that product fits into their life, and you're trying to make it aspirational. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I certainly have done it, where I see a photo of a candle and I'm like, if I have that candle, my house is going to look like that, and my house is going to smell amazing, and I'm going to feel like I'm in a Neptune catalogue or whatever. And so that's what I try and do through the products. I try and tell the stories. So, it's about creating moments for me. So it's not about that candle. It's about that end of the day when you sit down and you light that candle and you've got your cup of tea and all of those stresses go. Or it's about that early morning piece where nobody's up yet, but I'm going to light that candle and that smell. Or it might take you back to a holiday, or it's some memory that is going to evoke. With things like I do fashion photography, so handbags and things like that. And again, it's about solving problems for people. So how is this bag going to solve all of my problems? And I think as women, we're always looking for that handbag that's going to solve all of, well, I am anyway.
It's going to keep us organised. It's going to make us the women we want to be.
So again, it's about telling those stories and showing people how those products are going to fit in with their lives and enhance their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need that candle. You could happily do without it, but actually, if you have that candle, it's going to make you feel a certain way. And so that's what you're trying to get across in the photography. And I am really passionate about, I try as much as possible, you can see like my prop shelves behind me, I try as much as possible to source my props from small independent businesses as well, so that I am sort of keeping that circle going.
Yeah.
Also, then your photos are different. If I just use Amazon all the time, everybody's photos are going to look exactly the same. And I work with, I keep going back to candles just because it's easy and relatable, but I work with 5 or 6 different candle companies, but their photos aren't the same because they use different packaging. They have different ethos, different vision, different values, different branding colours, different price points, and all of those things. So when I work with a brand on a product shoot or on any shoot, I always have a chat with the client first and find out as much as I can about them. Knowledge is power. So I find out as much as I can about their brand and why they started and what they're trying to achieve. Then I put together a mood board. So I immerse myself in photographs of whatever it is that I'm shooting, put together a mood board that I think reflects. I always say to my clients, these are not the photos that I'm going to take for you, but it's the feel, people, it's the, you know, the mood that I'm going to create with those photos. And then they come back to me and they say, oh, I really like those ones, but I'm not so keen on that one. Or they might say to me, Laura, I love all of them, just do your thing. Then I go and source the props. And then it's about setups and storytelling through those setups, really. So it might be that I hire, I work really closely with a lot of holiday properties, so I might hire a location to stage photos so that it, you know, in somebody's house, but the house is a beautiful, neutral, you know, uncluttered house. Or I might do setups in the studio, same kind of premise, where I'm just using thoughtful props and setting the mood really with those photos. And I love how, you know, no two shoots are the same ever, even if they're the same brand. And yeah, and then it's about trying to make it as easy. What I get from a lot of clients is, oh, I'm not organised enough, you know, for your Christmas photography, for example. You need to be booking a shoot really in September, so your products really need to be in production in kind of July. So a lot of what I do is supporting my clients and going, this is coming up, you know.
Yeah, you need to have this to me so I can do this. Yeah.
And I do subscription packages so people can pay monthly and then get regular shoots across the year, so they've constantly got fresh imagery, so that it keeps it affordable, it spreads that investment, but also I'm in their back pocket, in their email inbox going, hi, you've got this many shoots left. Do you need anything in the next couple of months? These are the sorts of things that you might want to be thinking about. You know, Easter's coming up, or Father's Day, or whatever it is. Do you need imagery for this? And kind of keeping them accountable as well, because as a small business owner, you have got so many, you know.
Well, you're wearing all of the hats. You know, the majority of these small businesses you're talking about.
In your corner, just taking one of those hats off you and going, I'm here, this is how I can help. And I know so many product business owners that have spent hours, days trying to get the perfect photos of their products, and they know what they want it to look like in their head, but when they try and set it up themselves, it just doesn't come out like that. And so I try to save people time. I'm there to, you know, and to give them that confidence and to say, your products are amazing. Let's show them off in the best way that we possibly can.
And like you say, it'll give them the exact same confidence that will give a service business owner a personal brand, business owner who's walking out with pictures of themselves. People are so proud of their products, and it allows them to be that and not just over explaining, because they don't have the right imagery, so they're over explaining how good their product is, where, like you say, an image can do all the talking.
We're in such a saturated market now for so many things that you have to kind of stand out and be instantly recognisable, and that again is where that consistency of professional photography can help. And I'd love to, my next thing is I want to kind of try and combine the two, which I've done a little bit of, and I want to take photos of people creating those products, which I do sometimes in my branding photography, but I want to do more of that, because I think product people are very happy to kind of hide behind the product, but actually the person behind that product is as important. So showing that
completely as important. And this is what I tell my clients, because they'll say to me about, if they're a product-based business, and they'll talk about all these big brands that they do, like, well, this person doesn't, and this. And I said, but when they were your size, they did. You know, the guy who built Nike, people knew him.
And
when he was building it.
Personal touch now as well. They're moving away from the big brands. They don't want to buy from Amazon if they don't have to. Yes, there's an element of convenience and stuff, but actually, if they can support a small business, a lot of people want to do that, and they want to know the story behind it. And so that's where I come in as well.
Well, that's it. People want to know if it's eco, if it's local, if they're supporting a local business. You know, there's lots of people who'll be very anti Amazon and those types of things, and won't even use it for just some of the convenience that it comes to. So they're actively looking for the smaller businesses and things. But people want to know, and also when people know a story, when people know how you got to where you got to, they are more likely to become a loyal customer.
That's
because they've bought into you.
Doing the same thing. Yeah, they've bought into you and your story and your uniqueness. And so that's really important as well. So yeah.
It's so funny about you talking about aspirational pictures. In front of me, I've got a board that I have things on that I need to remember and visualize, and on a vision board when I look at it and look at the products. I've got a picture of a candle. I've got a picture of a handbag. I've got a picture of a chair with a certain type of light next to it and a book in a certain setting. And when you look at it, you think that, but it's not, I don't want that handbag. I want
I want
what
that
that,
feeling.
how that woman feels holding that handbag and that candle being lit in that house. That's how I want my house to feel. So it is those feelings. It's not even about, in fact, you can only see a little
About
bit of the
photos,
handbag.
it's about feelings.
It's about the feeling of it, and that's really, really important. And that's when you're working on your personal brand and putting all those things in place. As a strategist, I totally try and get people to think about that and understand the importance of, so it's so good hearing from a photographer solidifying those things that you're trying to tell people, that
I'm
this
the
is how
same with my brand. I
important
try and talk about how it will feel when
it
I
is.
help you as well.
Yeah.
So it all comes back to feelings and emotions and stuff, doesn't it? That's how we
Uh-huh.
work as humans. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the bit that I love.
And a beautiful image can talk a
Oh, yeah,
thousand words. You
yeah.
know, if you're somebody who's struggling with words or struggling to get across why your product's good, beautiful imagery can do all the talking for
And
you.
what I try and do with both with my branding and my product photography is I get people to break down all of the messages that they want to get out into the world. So I say to them, look, imagine you're sat across from your dream client. What do you want to tell them about this product? Or what do you want to tell them about this thing that you're offering? What promotions have you got coming up? What new launches have you got coming up? And then we try and match the imagery to those so that when you need that photo for whatever it is, you've got it, it's there. And like you say, it kind of does all the hard work for you, because then you've just got to use your voice and talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. And that quite often is the easier part. And it's just having something that,
Well, by that point, you feel confident, you feel proud, you feel that your product is the product that you believe it is, and you can show up in a totally different way, whether that product's a product, whether the product is you. It's all about the way that you feel about it too, and that belief,
yeah,
building that,
and that
that,
comes across in
that
everything
belief.
that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay. As you know, I ask everybody 3 questions to prepare before they come, all around joy. So the first one is your joy spotlight, a favourite thing that has shaped your life, business, or work.
So earlier I talked about when I got divorced and how, that sort of shaped the next sort of chapter, if you like, of my life. And I think I spent a lot of time, especially when my children were young, busy rushing to the next thing, thinking, right, what do I need to do next? And I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I don't feel like I really enjoyed my children when they were tiny, because I was always thinking, oh, I need to clean the house and I need to do this and I need to do that. And over the last few years, I've really slowed down. I don't know if it's an age thing, I don't know if it's a stage of life thing, I don't know. Really slowed down. And one of the things that really helped me to see that was a book called The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary by Catherine Gray. And it is just all about those moments that I talk about and that I try and focus on for tea and biscuits, is those ordinary little moments, like your cup of tea in the morning in the quiet, or going out into the woods on a sunny day and that sunlight coming through, or my children are now 11 and 13, so they're reaching those kind of teenage, they're nearly 12 and 14 actually. So those moments when, like the other night, they came and sat and had a cup of tea in the front room and we were all just all sat chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And those tiny, tiny moments that I really try and cling on to. My word of the year this year is calm. And that's kind of what I'm seeking in all that I do, is just that calm, because when you have that calm, you notice more of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that book really changed my perspective on life and how I go through life. And it really helped me to slow down. And I probably revisit it once every year, and I listen to it on audiobook. And it's about noticing those tiny moments, because they're really the things that matter in life. They're those core memories, those things that you look back on with your photos and kind of go, I remember that moment. So it kind of feeds into what I do as well. It's those moments that matter, and that, the ones that you cling on to and you go back to and revisit in your head. So yeah, that book.
It's a conversation that has come up quite a lot in the podcast as well, this thing of kind of rushing through life. And we had a conversation before we pressed record about social media and the kind of love-hate relationship people can have with it. But one of the great things about social media is the ability to share and share stories and share thoughts. And I totally believe that you create your own social media. You don't need to have all the bad things, and I
100%.
will unfollow if it makes me feel any way that I don't want to be feeling. And I'm lucky that I've always kind of created this feed for people that inspire and are aspirational to me, or or I enjoy, even and just from an entertainment point of view. But one of the things that I think that I'm lucky at the age that I had my children, and my children are still young, they're 4 and 2.5. And I've been really lucky to have this influence on me. Now, there's lots of things on social media that are overwhelming about parenting, but one of the things was enjoy it, take it slow. It'll go. And everybody says these things, so you don't need to be on social
Cliches, aren't
media
they?
to
And I
say
think
it. They are
sometimes when you're
cliches.
in it, it's such an intense time when your children are small. It's
Hmm.
intense, and
Hmm.
I remember that so vividly. I remember being overwhelmed. I didn't have family around me. We lived away from my family when they were very young. And I just remember just feeling all consumed by it. And it's such a cliche to say it goes fast and it gets easier. And it does. There are different worries now that I've got.
Obviously, yeah. I
Terrifying.
know which side I'd rather be on. If I could press pause and not get to, maybe like they can get to like 8, but after
Yeah,
after
there is a really nice time somewhere in the middle where they don't need you quite as much, but they need you enough. My kids still need me, and I have to tell myself that over and over again. I have this fear of like the time when they won't. Sometimes it is really, you can't enjoy every moment. Some of it's flipping hard. Some
No,
of
that's it. And it's just, but what I try and do, and what I've got from social media, and it's probably more of an overall, not just about having kids, is to slow down. And it's certainly buzzwords at the moment, and it's certainly a thing we're going through. And I certainly think after COVID, one of the things that we learned to do was slow down. I'd been working 80-hour weeks, and then COVID hit, and I still work from home, and we still worked pretty hard, but we made sure we got outside. I was eating better, and that's actually when I fell pregnant with my first child. So I had a couple of COVID babies. But so it was, but it's just that intentional slowing down, and that when you're saying like knowing that you don't need to do it all, and it's something that, but again, it's hard. You have to work hard at it. You have to
I
be
think
so
I had
intentional with it.
this mindset that had to be perfect.
Yeah.
That, you know, I was worried about what other people thought of me. I'm not anymore. And everything had to be perfect, couldn't be seen to be a failure. And again, when I got divorced, that was quite freeing. And I remember, my brother will probably kill me for saying this, but I remember my brother saying to me, Laura, this is the first non-textbook thing that you've done with your life, because I thought you had to go to university, get a job, buy a house, get married, have kids in a certain order. And I
Yeah.
was constantly striving for that perfection. And now I know it doesn't exist. And that is really freeing. And, you know, it's like I said, it's those tiny things that matter more than the
Yeah.
bigger things. So yeah.
I think it's that thing, isn't it? Like I say, I just try and be intentional. Jenna Holloway was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she was talking about, she does white space and making space in your life, but she was talking about the kind of point to her was she'd struggled to have children for 5 years. Then she had them, and she said, and then I was rushing it.
Yeah.
I was like, right, we need to do this, we need to go there, we need to go this. And I said to her, when I started my business for freedom to look after my kids. And then I was just like, right, I need to pick them up from nursery. Right, when we get back, they need to have the dinner, and they need to go to bed, and they need, because I need to carry on working the business. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I not? So now it's, I have to remind myself, trust me, and there's days I get it horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But like
We all do.
yesterday I was like, right, I'm picking the kids up from nursery. So this is the time my laptop closes, prepare dinner, and then I'll walk down. Luckily, it was a lovely sunny night. Helps a lot.
Yeah,
And
it
I
does
walked
help
to
a lot.
nursery
Yeah.
to pick them up. And we were walking back, and we sang Five Little Speckled Frogs all the way home. And you know, when you just think, that was it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, to have the ability to make that choice to do that. And don't rush it, Diane. Don't tell them to hurry up. You know, apart from when they wouldn't cross the road safely, that I told them to hurry up.
Mm.
But just enjoy those moments,
Yeah.
and then yeah, you will do some work tonight, but it'll be there when they're in bed at the right time, and you're ready to be there if you want it to be there. You know, you're not going to lose a customer because of it. You know, you're not going to gain a customer because of it. It's just going to be. And I think but people expect that to be easy to do,
It
and it's
doesn't
not.
always come naturally, does it?
No.
Like you said, you have to be intentional. You have to say, this is the life that I want to create. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want my family to feel. And the way that I achieve that is through slowing down, through, taking the pressure off a little bit. So
So your Joy Spotlight was the slowing down, and Inspired by Joy was the book that you had mentioned. So
yes.
how did that book come into your life?
I read another book called Ice Cream for Breakfast. I can't remember.
Yes.
Jane Williams.
Yes, that's
all
exactly
about being childlike rather than childish.
Yes.
That massively spoke to me because I did take myself very seriously. Again, thought I had to be perfect and all of that jazz. And then I think it was just after I've read that, this book was then one of those recommended, because you've read this is recommended. And whilst Ice Cream for Breakfast I love, and I would recommend that everybody reads it, The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary was more practical for me. It was more, I think because of my love of photos as well, it spoke more to me. It was more about capturing those moments. And so it was as simple as that. It came in because I'd read another book, which was also incredibly good, but it was one of those books that I read a chapter and then I sort of sat there and kind of thought, wow. And then I'd go back and read that chapter again because I was like, I really want to kind of absorb all of this information. And this is what I want my life to look like. And she'd been on a sort of similar journey where she wasn't happy in her life, and probably more so than I was. I was quite happy, but I wasn't content, I suppose. There's a difference. And she had intentionally slowed down because of things that had happened to her, and it kind of spoke to me because there was a parallel, I suppose, there and I could see that reflection back on me, and I thought, this is what I want my life to look like more. And again, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not like it all the time. I still rush around. I walk incredibly fast. People tell me, oh, you're missing stuff, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm just getting there faster. It's fine. But yeah, so I still have to be intentional about it. But yeah, it was just one of those books that I feel like it was supposed to land in my lap.
No, it's quite often with books, I think, that they come along, and sometimes I've even had books that have came along, I haven't been able to finish them, and then they sit on the bookshelf, and then all of a sudden you go back to it and you pick it up again and you're like, why didn't I see this the first time? Because
It's the right
wasn't
time as well, isn't it? If you'd have given me that book 2 years previously when I was still married and stuff, it wouldn't have spoken
the right messages from it.
I wouldn't have been as open to it. But because it happened just at the right time, that, and I thought, actually, I've got an opportunity to change things. It doesn't have to be the way that it's been for the last 11 years of my life. This can be different. And that's what that book gave me, I suppose, that freedom.
And I think when people, like, I was in a career that going slow would have been like, I may as well said I was moving to Timbuktu if I said I was going to go slow. But what I'm learning, and it is what I'm learning, it's not what I've learned yet, but what I'm learning is that going slow doesn't mean not successful, doesn't even mean less. Going slow can actually give me more because I make intentional moves. I can actually be a bit bolder, and I can make some decisions faster because I'm moving slower, if that makes any sense at all.
Completely, because you're coming at it from the right place. It's a different way.
You're not coming from chaos. You're not coming from rush. You're not coming from panic or lack. You're coming from, this is decision make. And sometimes, like somebody said to me the other day, you made that decision really quickly that you were going to do that with your business. And I was like, did I? Well, I'm intentionally trying to move slow, but then I realized it's because I'm moving slow, because I've got space, because I'm not just rushing on to the next thing, that actually when the right thing comes along, I can say, okay, I'm ready to make that decision now. Yes, that's the right thing.
Isn't it? Yeah, 100%. And that you mentioned panic there. I think panic and impatience would have been two very key words in my life 6-7 years ago. And now I'm still impatient. I can still be.
I think it's once you're impatient, you're always impatient.
I don't think but I am. I know I am. I recognise that in myself, and I can say to myself, right, you're just being impatient. But that panic, I did have panic attacks, and there's still, there's still some times when I've felt that way. But I've been able to recognise that and kind of stop it because I'm slower, I suppose, and it gives you more opportunity to recognize those feelings.
You've acknowledged it, you're aware of it. It's like that feeling in the pit of your stomach when that panic begins to set in and you're like, right, okay, I now need to do something. I need to stop doing what I'm doing. I need to take myself out for a walk. I need to deal with the thing I need to deal with, whatever it is. It is that feeling of, but if you acknowledge it, that is almost, like you say, it's that acknowledge to pull it back, to
You're
slow it
taking
down.
control of it then, aren't you? Because you're like, no, I don't want to feel like this. I'm going to do, like you say, I'm going to put in some sort of strategy to help me deal with it. So yeah, I think slowing down is just, it's hard, but it's 100% worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself. And then the last one is the joy killer. I do really, really like this one.
It's really hard about this because I'm very much a live and let live person. I don't, I don't get angsty about lots of things. I try and stay in my little sphere of influence as much as possible. So, but obviously my personal account is tea and biscuits. I'm incredibly passionate about tea and biscuits. My daughter will tell you that I have a mug addiction. And she quite often says to me, we're out in a shop looking and she'll say, you've got enough mugs. And I'm like, what? That just doesn't exist in life. There's no such thing. And because I'm a photographer now, I don't know, you can't see them on my prop shelves. And anyway, on the podcast, it won't work. But I now buy mugs because I'm like, well, that'll make a great prop.
Yeah, you now get the excuse. I'll have it as a prop.
Photography was so that I could buy more mugs. But yeah, so anybody that says, you've got enough mugs, that's a joy killer. Similarly, if anybody said to me, you shouldn't have another biscuit, you've had too many biscuits, again, doesn't compute. And I'm on a very big health kick at the moment, and I have learnt of late that I can have 2 biscuits instead of half a pack. But I still, and again, that's about slowing down and enjoying those 2 biscuits and making them really. And the mug that you drink your tea out of is incredibly important.
It's incredibly important. I've got one of my favourite mugs right here.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it is really important. So my mum, and she's going to kill me for telling this because she hates when we tell people, but we take the mickey out of her. She has specific mugs for different drinks throughout the day. But I could tell you, I could look at the clock now and I'll know what tea she's drinking, whether she's drinking coffee and what mug she's drinking it out of. She has had a panic attack and flew across the room when somebody's brought her the wrong drink in the wrong mug, or thinking that my dad was bringing in a drink and she was like, I thought you were bringing me my coffee and that's the wrong mug. She will absolutely kill me for telling this story. Well, I'll find out if she listens to the podcast, won't I, if she listens to this. So yeah, she has a specific cup, so much so that even my partner takes the mickey out of her. And when we buy a new mug, it's like, do you have space for a new mug, Mum? Which time are you going to... literally at certain times today, you can say she's going to be having her chamomile tea and it's going to be in this mug. She's going to be having her morning coffee and it's going to be in this mug. And don't you dare get them mixed up.
I think this is inspirational. I think this is something I aspire to now. I do have cups for certain things. I feel slightly self-conscious admitting this now, but my morning coffee I have in a certain cup, and I always start the day, well, I try not to have caffeine first thing in the morning. I try and have water first. My first cup of tea is normally in the same cup, and then mid-morning I'll have a cup of tea. That's in a coffee, and that's in the same cup. But I feel like I need to step it up and kind of
she's always got
your mum is at.
She's always got, and then you'll ruin it if you put something else in it. And there was a disagreement in this household 2 weeks ago when in one of my big favourite, I've got a really, really, really big mug for tea that when I'm not making a pot, but I need more than just a wee cup.
Yeah.
And he made gravy in it.
What?
Yes, exactly.
That's a serious conversation there, isn't it?
It was a serious conversation.
Down, we need to have a chat kind of thing.
I let him enjoy his dinner first, and then there was a serious conversation. The fact that I know, I was trying. I'd spent a long time making it, so I was like, well, you can enjoy it, and then once the children are in bed, we've got a serious
discussion. Yeah, 100%.
I don't know what he thought when I said, right, we need to sit down and have a talk. I was like, oh God, and I'd be like, right, the gravy. He went, you never had any gravy. I went, I know. But what did you make it in? We have 3 jugs you could have made it in, and you picked my tea mug.
I love that.
Luckily, it's fine. It's fine. It made it through, and it can be drank with tea again. And he promises never to do it again.
Sometimes you can't quite see that mug in the same way again because
it had that in it. Yeah, thick, gloopy Northern Boy gravy is what it was.
But still,
was not happy at all.
Brilliant.
So if people are listening to this and they want to know more about your mugs, or they want to work with you or come and find you and share your world, where can they come and do that?
So I'm on Instagram as Any Something Photography, or if you just want the nice photos of the everyday, I'm Tea and Biscuits. And my website is www.anysomething.com.
Very much. Now, there is one question I ask everybody before they leave, and I don't let them go without it, is what joy legacy do you want to leave behind?
Well, that's a really hard question, because that's a big deal, isn't it? That's like...
Yeah, that's like, what do you want to be known for?
I just think giving people confidence to show up for the thing that they're passionate about. That's what it's all about for me. Or increasing that confidence. It might be somebody that comes to me that's, had photos done before, but maybe they haven't quite felt right, or they don't reflect who they are right now. So giving you confidence to show up as you are right now, the amazing, passionate, creative people that we are, that's what I want to be known for. And making people feel safe and happy doing that.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I think if we could all feel safe and happy, we'd all live pretty good lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Laura. I've enjoyed all the conversations, from branding right through to mugs. It has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Wasn't that just the most gorgeous conversation with Laura? I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed being part of it. And what a reminder that every image we share has the power to tell a story. Not just about our brand, but about our growth, our courage, and our truth. And I think the thing that will stay with me forever is when Laura said that she made somebody feel like they were looking at themselves, that they saw themselves. And I hope that was a standout moment for you too. Laura's insights today are a beautiful nudge to look beyond the surface, to embrace visibility as an act of empowerment, and to honour the small, quiet moments that make up a life and a business, because truly that's where the joy and the magic sit. So here are 3 big takeaways that I want to leave you with. 1, being seen is a brave act, whether it's through photography or showing up online or showing up in real life. However you're showing up for yourself and your business, visibility isn't about vanity, it's about ownership. Number 2, you can build confidence by telling your truth. You don't have to have it all figured out to be worthy of sharing your story. You can practice, and the joy is in the imperfection and the progress. Number 3, ordinary moments matter. Slowing down and appreciating what's here, right now, right at this moment, is part of your legacy and part of your life and part of creating a life that you love. And if you're listening to this and thinking, I want more support like this, I want to have these conversations, I want to know what having joy in my business could feel like, then the Joywork Members Club waitlist is open now. The doors are opening really, really soon. And to be the first to know, you need to be on that waitlist. It's our brilliant community, our membership, where strategy meets support with regular coaching, accountability, big, bold dream making, and a safe space to build a business that's aligned, joyful, and truly yours. It really is the most special space. The link is in the show notes. You can go and have a look at it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you love this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, or share it with someone who needs it today. It literally takes you 2 seconds. And whilst you're there, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and you help us spread a little bit more joy, have more conversations, and create more of these beautiful stories. And remember, joy isn't a reward for reaching the end. It's what fuels you every step of the way. Until next time, see you later.